Hello, this is Garbotoxin TCG, and today I will show you the Level Ball Cup format, an alternative format for the Pokemon TCG. Let's start things up with the basic rules. So same as normal Pokemon, you can only play a maximum of 4 copies of non-basic energy cards in a deck, so you cannot play 6, 7, 8 Professor's Research. And the format is Sword and Shield on, so you can only play cards with the regulation mark of D, E, F, G, and so on for the format. So there's more cards than the standard format, but there's less cards than the expanded format. The special thing with the Level Ball Cup format is that only Pokemon with 90 HP or less are legal. So if your Pokemon has 100 or more HP, you cannot play it. And there's a short ban list right now of 4 cards. This ban list consists of the Lost Origin Sableye, the Evolving Skies Wishiwashi, the Brilliant Star card to the Brilliant Star to Pokemon Tool Pot Helmet, and the Scarlet and Violet base set Alucha. The reason for those bans is basically to keep different decks being played. I think Sableye will just rule the format, especially with Alucha. You can still play Comfy. You basically play a baby version of Lost Bug with no Cramorant, with no Dratina V-Star. You just play Sableye, and when you have 10 cards in the Lost Zone, you just wreck the opponent's deck. Wishiwashi there is because there's a ton of cards that will that can charge water energies on a Pokemon, and basically when Wishiwashi has 3 more energies, it has 180 HP, and you can still play Cape of Toughness, and it's still a really good card. It will always be a really good card, and it basically cheats the most permanent rule of the format, which is 93 or less. Pot Helmet is mostly because it's just a better version of a lot of other cards in this format. Basically, it's a big charm that can be used to now be 60 less instead of 30 less. Since you can attack the Pokemon with Pot Helmet twice, it's a full face guard that reduces more damage, and like it's a rock chestplate that can attach itself to a non-fighting Pokemon, and it's basically sometimes a better Cape of Toughness on basic Pokemon. So yeah, that's the most of the reason why these cards are banned. Now let's go to the staples. What most of the cards are played in the format. So of course the biggest staple, the card that's the most played in this format right now, is Level Ball, per the name. It's basically a Pokeball without the Queen Flip, the Master Ball without it being an Ace Spec, the Ultra Ball without discarding 2 cards from your end. It's just a good at everything Pokeball in this format, and like it's not really ban worthy. Like it's the name of the format, that's the point of it, is you can search for weak Pokemon quite easily. But also some other balls that you can use if you want to have more than 4 Pokemon search in your deck. A Nest Ball and Quick Ball are more for the basic Pokemon. Nest Ball I'd say is better in general, but Quick Ball is good if you want to discard synergy, or if you want to search for Pokemon that needs to be placed from your hand, like Galarian Zigzagoon as an example. Ultra Ball and Evolution Incense are good if you play evolution decks. I think Evolution Sense is good if you play a big number of this second Pokemon search, but I think Ultra Ball is like the best of these four balls right here if you play low count, like 1 or 2, because like it's basically a worse level ball, but at least you can search for basic or you can search for evolutions, and you can place them directly from your hand. Now these two are like the main Pokemon recycling effects, and I guess energy recycling effects for Rod. Rescue Carrier is super broken in this format, which is like quite fresh because it's not that played in a standard. You can recover 2 Pokemon with 90 HP or less from your discard pile right into your hand. So it's super good, it's super efficient, and it's really good for decks, like especially stage 1 decks that just want to dupe its stage 1 attackers. Red is quite good, like it's not as good as Rescue Carrier, but like if you really want to shuffle back energies, it's a tinker. Switch, Escape Ropes, Scoop Up Nets, and Air Balloon are like kind of really good switch outs in the format. I think Scoop Up Net is like the second most played item in this format. It's good switch. It's healing, and like it recycles effects. You'll see from some stage 1 and some basic. It's also good for like cards that only use itself once it's in the active spot, like Comfy or Mew. Yeah, Herbalist is still really good. It's good for deck that pivots, good for deck that just wanted to retreat and like not use just one card like Switch or Escape Rope. Like it can use the card more than one time. And Switch Escape Rope are just really good overall. Marnie, I'd say, is the best draw support in the format right now. It's good to get a lot of new cards without losing resources like Professor's Research would do. But some decks like still prefer Professor's Research to have the great speed of drawing 7 cards out of nothing. Colress's Experiment, I'd say, is good in like a Lost Box deck, but I'd say it's also really good in this format if you want to have a big hand and like starting to have more and more and more cards in one big hand instead of refreshing your hand every so often. Bird Keeper is really good if you want to pivot or like there's a lot of deck that wants to switch out to attacker. Since Inhibition and Judge are less played, I would say, than the other 4, but there can be some more instances that they're better than the other 4. Boss's Order is like probably the only good Gust in the format right now. Unfortunately, Toy Catcher is not that much played, but Boss's Order is kind of interesting because you still want to Gust things. Like there's no Luminia that you can Gust out of nowhere. There's those 2 prizers in this format, but sometimes you pre-damage something and you want to finish it off, or you want to kill a support Pokemon, knock out a support Pokemon. Clara and Miriam are the Pokemon recycling effect, but for the supporter side, Clara is like a boosted rescue card that also grabs energy. It's really good for looping. Now you can also loop the energies you want. Miriam is also good if you want to put like everything on the same everything in the same basket. You just want to shuffle all your Pokemon, don't worry about it for the rest of the game probably. It's also the only right now it's the only thing that can shuffle a whole stage 2 line. Ordinary Rod, Rescue Carrier, and Clara can only take back 2 Pokemon, so you need to play more than one if you want to shuffle a stage 2 line. And the only stage 2 line right now is Jumpluff, but like Miriam really helps the Jumpluff deck in general. For other trainer and like I guess special energy staples, these are the tools the Stadium and the Special Energy play right now. Capture Energy is like kind of the king of the Special Energy in this format right now. Most people would think so too. It's good to have a Ball Surge and an Energy at the same time. It's good for Lost Box. It's good for just decks that wants to attack for 1 card as in general. Gift Energy is also a nice draw bonus. Twin Energy and Double Turbo Energy are basically the double energy. Decks like MB Pump, decks that want to charge energies, deck that attacks for 2 colorless, like Radiant Jirachi, will use this special energy. Or energy is not that much play. I put it here because like people can still use it if they don't play like a rainbow deck. Big Charm, Full Face Guard, Keep of Toughness, and Rock Chest Plate are basically the tanking tools I said earlier. As I said earlier when talking about Pot Helmet, Big Charm is if you want more HP and like be better against damage counters deck, or you play ability, because then Full Face Guard wouldn't work on this Pokemon. But I think if you don't play ability, Full Face Guard is usually the better card. 20 less damage is basically 40 more HP if you take 2 attacks. Keep of Toughness is like a better Big Charm if you play a basic deck, and Rock Chest Plate is a better Full Face Guard if you play a fighting deck. Defiance Band and Vitality Band are the tools that increases damage that are played right now in this format. Vitality Band is really good for specific mat. If you're a Pokemon that hits for 80 damage, this 10 more can really help you in the long run. Defiance Band, I didn't test that card right now, so I didn't test that card that much in the Scarlet and Violet format, but I think it has the potential to break the format actually. Doing 30 more is kind of really impressive and can matter a lot. It's basically a third of the damage you need to knock out the maximum HP of the format, but you need to lose in prizes, so like you kind of need to play smarter to play a Defiance Band. Training Court, I'd say, is the best stadium in the format right now. It's good to recycle energies. Like I said, if you have Training Court in play, the rescue carrier basically is a Clara, so that's very interesting. Beach Core is interesting for like pivot deck, like Pissir Style Mew and Comfy. Lost City is super interesting for spread and like Boss's Order decks in general, or even Snipe decks. Because now it can like remove completely a Pokemon from the game. It cannot be recycled with recycling effects. It goes to Lost Zone, it's gone forever for the game. And this level ball cup format is really important. It is a format where um, not losing resources is super important. That's why research is not that much played right now. So Lost City basically removes resources for good, and since you have a lot more weaker Pokemon in play and to attack with, if you're losing them like every turn and they go to Lost Zone, you can basically lose the game because all your main attackers are in the Lost Zone. Rose Tower, Mismagius, and Pokestop are just like good, sometimes good, I'd say. Uh, Consistency cards in general. Now for the Pokemon staples, I'd say Chinchino is like the king of the format right now. If you don't know what to play for a support line, Chinchino is most of the time the good answer. Discarding cards is sometimes whack, but you can recover a lot more easily with Rescue Care and stuff like that. So if you feel like a 4 Rescue Carry list, you can probably discard a lot of Pokemon, especially if you play Miriam too. Kirlia, I'd say, is the worst Chinchino, especially since Chinchino has better HP and actually a good attack in this format. But Kirlia is good if you play Fog Crystal, I'd say. If you play like 4 Fog Crystal anyway, I think Kirlia has an opportunity to be better than Chinchino in your deck. Drizzle is like sometimes worse than Chinchino, but you can abuse it with Scoop Up Net. And searching your deck for specific trainer is good for like combo decks or decks that wants to sometimes search for a specific trainer that can help it win, basically. The Alterius Corvette engine is playable in this format. I didn't test it that much. I didn't check if it's that good, but I think it has potential, especially with all the weird supporter you can play. Manaphy, I'd say, is one of the most important cards in the format, since there's so much spread and sniping and killing Pokemon is so easy in this format. I see some decks even play 2 Manaphy because they're scared of Boss plus Canceling Clone. So if you have 2 Manaphy, it basically disables the Boss plus Canceling Clone combo. Raging Jirachi is a nice attacker that can fit in any decks, and basically being knocked out makes you search for 3 cards, which is sometimes game breaking for the opponent. The also good thing with Raging Jirachi is the fact that it has a grass resistance, and there's some interesting grass decks in this format right now. So sometimes taking 30 less per attacks for grass Pokemon can be just really good, especially since you have 1/4 of chance to knock out the opponent's Pokemon. Pyukumuku is interesting if you play Irida, because I see a lot of decks that, especially like Drizzle decks, that plays 1, 2, 4 Iridas, and mid-late game, when you already have your Pokemon set up or you don't know what to search with as a water Pokemon for Irida, Pyukumuku is kind of interesting to search, so you can just like draw 1 in bonus of searching for your item. Zigzagoon and Flapples are basically good for spread decks. They're good for decks that want specific mats. They're good for decks that like don't want to be bothered with like doing a lot of damage and they just want to use Flapple and Zigzagoon to basically do a double KO in a few turns. And their Zigzagoon especially is really good with Scoop Up Net. Flapple is good with like Turffield Stadiums and the cards like that. Meowstick is interesting. It's like a worse Drizzle, but it can search for 2 supporters instead of 1. I've done some cool like things with Meowstick. Like I think it's good like in a Ryan deck or in a deck that wants to play a supporter and then draw cards later, like a supporter that doesn't draw you cards and draw cards later. So sometimes when I play a Ryan deck, I'll use Meowstick to search for like Ryan and like a Marnie for the next turn or a Cynthia's Ambition for next turn. Yeah, and like burst draw supporters in a fewer accounts are really interesting with Meowstick. I'd say with Altaria too, but like Meowstick works better with Scoop on that, and takes less space than Altaria Scoop it. Cleft Key, I have no idea if it's that much good, but I think it's a nice card to keep in mind since it basically shuts off a ton of cards right just in this page alone, like Zigzagoon, not Pyukumuku, but Zigzagoon, Comfy, Mew, and I guess Jirachi if you knock it out with Joust, and also Scovet too, yeah. Yeah, but it's a nice card to keep in mind. Comfy and Mew are basically pivot support Pokemons. Mew is better in most decks over Comfy, but Comfy is cool if you want to do things with Mirage Gate or like Lost Box decks. Another thing I forgot to say is that Minccino is sometimes the better support Pokemon over Ralts, because you can search your deck for 2 basic Pokemon. But there's some interesting Ralts like Memory Skip or Teleportation Burst that if you play Psychic Energy is nice to keep in mind. Now for decks. The Jumpluff Double Strike deck is basically the only stage 2 deck that's possible to play in this format right now. Jumpluff's Fluffy Barrage ability makes you able to attack twice in a turn. And like you can play scrolls like Rapid Strike Scroll here that makes you spread 30 damage on every row, which is super interesting. And like spreading 60 can be game breaking but for 3 energies it's kind of a lot. Spinning attack is not that bad in this format. You do 60 damage, which is two-third of the damage to knock out a Pokemon sometimes. And you can just play like Defiance Band or Vitality Band or even Leon or even the gloves here to when it kills certain Pokemon and then kill another Pokemon with spinning attack since you use it twice a turn. And the good thing with Jumpluff is that it has good pre-evolution. Like Skiploom makes Jumpluff basically stage 1, since you evolve your Hoppip into Skiploom, you attach your energy, which you need to do if you want to attack on Skiploom, and then you immediately evolve it. It only doesn't work if you don't have Jumpluffs in your deck. Hoppip is interesting because it's a Rapid Strike card, and I like to pair Jumpluff with Drizzle since you want to search for like specific traders. And the Sobble has the Keep Calling attack, which can search your deck for 3 Rapid Strike basic Pokemon, put them on your bench, which includes Hoppip, so I think that's really interesting. If you play Turffield Stadium to search for your Skiplooms, I think the Blink Flapple and Kricketune is super interesting. Kricketune makes Jumpluff basically a 130 HP Pokemon, and Flapple can help you get mad so you can kill with Spinning Attack better. Can help you kill with Spinning Attack, basically. So that's basically it for the Jumpluff Double Strike deck. I think the biggest weakness of this deck is the fact that like you may have like the best turn 2 in the game, the best turn 3 in the game, but like if you lose a Jumpluff or you're getting Marnied, the deck falls apart really easy and really fast. Also, the fact that you need to play Miriam if you want to shuffle back a Pokemon, if you want to shuffle back the whole line, is kind of rough too. Now for Accelgor Tank. Accelgor Tank is really interesting. It's basically the only viable Fusion Strike deck, I'd say. The whole point is that if Accelgor moves to the bench, from the bench to the active spot, it can use its 120 damage attack for 1 grass energy. And so that's basically knocking out the whole format, especially decks that wants to tank more damage like the Jumpluff we saw. Well, Jumpluff is 130, but like it can help itself, basically. And Oricorio makes Accelgor basically 110 HP if it's getting 1-hit KO'd. And you can play cards like Full Face Guard and Kricketune to increase its tankability even more. Big Charm is also interesting over Full Face Guard if you want to use it on other Pokemon like Oricorio and Kricketune, and if you want to have a better chance against spread. Damage counter spread, by the way. Mew is a really good pivot since you probably want to move from the bench to the active a ton of time. I think a Pokemon that wants to be in the active spot like Style Mew is really good for this deck. Chili Silent Crest is kind of a weird card to think about, but since you're losing a lot of Pokemon quite fast, and it's kind of a slower format since there's a lot less consistent card that's getting played, searching your deck for 3 of your combo pieces, either Shelmet, Accelgor, or Oricorio, can be really good. And Birdkeeper, I really like it. If your Accelgor didn't die, which like if you're playing a ton of I think cards shouldn't die, Birdkeeper can just be like, okay, another Accelgor is getting ready. You can go to Mew, you can go to your next Accelgor. It's really good, and you also draw a tree, which is good. You can even play Rowlet if you want to play the Birdkeeper. If you want to like a nice sniping attack. Fusion Strike Energy is really good against some ability that you hate. It's good for like Klefki. Well, no, Klefki doesn't really matter, but it's good for The Mismagius we'll see later. It's good for other ability like Zigzagoon too. Yeah. And it's basically grass energy most of the time. You just kind of get it back with like Clara and stuff like that. Yeah, really cool deck. I guess its weakness is losing all of its Pokemon at once, or just having a bad Marnie and like just getting its tools or ability removed with the help of other disrupting cards. Now it's time to look at Frosmoth box. It's kind of like the water toolbox that was getting played in the Astral Radiance to Silver Tempest format. You just put a ton of water energy on Pokemon that wants it. The best part, with the help of the Frosmoth's Ice Dance ability, the best Pokemon that wants the energy, I'd say, are Starmie from Fusion Strike and Castform from Chilling Reign. The Starmie's multi-shot stars attack is basically you discard any amount of water energy on it, and for each water energy you can do 30 damage to a Pokemon, and you can choose different Pokemon. So if you have like if you manage to put like 6 or 7 energies on Starmie, you can probably bird wipe, remove all the important Pokemon on the opponent side. Castform is really good because it can do 3 for 120, and this damage is sometimes like just game winning by itself. It's also good because it has free retreat, so it's good to pivot because Frosmoth can only attach to bench Pokemon. Walkthrough is kind of a main pick, but you can go there if you want to. And there's a interesting other Frostmoth if you don't want to put like Starmie and play Staryu, you can just play a Frosmoth that evolves from the same Snom that does 3 for 160 and puts all the energy back into your hand. Mesa and Irida are obvious really good cards in this deck, especially if you want to like do back the energy with Mesa. Oh, for Starmie. Boss Order plus Kinston alone. It's kind of important if you don't want to lose with Manaphy, with Starmie against Manaphy, basically. The weakness of the deck is kind of like Marnie and stuff like that again, but if it doesn't get the energy it wants fast, you're kind of losing position. Swim Fury is like the younger cousin of Frosmoth Box, but I'd argue that sometimes is better. Basically, instead of attaching from the bench with the help of Frosmoth, you can attach to the front with the help of Finneon and its ability Oceanic Accompaniment. But Finneon can only attach water energy to Pokemon that has the Swim Freely attack. And Swim Freely is not a good attack. It's basically an agility, 10 damage plus flip a coin. If heads you knock out, you don't knock out. If heads you're immune to all effects of attack, including damage. But what's good is that Lumineon has the waterfall attack, which is a 120 damage, and now we said earlier 120 can basically cover a lot of knockouts, especially if they don't play tanking cards. And Seadra has the Hydrojet attack, which is a weaker version of Neon, but you don't discard energy. You can only choose one Pokemon, and you do 20 damage instead of 30 for each energy. But like, if you have 5 energies on Seadra, or like 4, you can probably knock out any Pokemon you want. Mesa is again really good. Risker is, I think, super important because Lumineon evolves from Finneon. So I'd say you play 4 Finneon and you can evolve them sometimes to Lumineon. But if you don't want to lose all your support Pokemon, you kind of want to rescue carry them back. And Buster plus Canceling Column is super important for the Seadra attack. Again. Now for the Pika combo, it's one of my favorite decks for this format. Basically, the deck wants you to use Togedemaru's Togedash, which is 10 damage plus flip a coin, and if heads, your opponent don't get a prize when this Pokemon is knocked out. But what's really funny is that the Deadening has the Dede Short attack, which is 60 damage plus paralyzed, but you can only use this attack if you had a Togedemaru that used a Togedash attack. And then there's more Pico, again for lightning energy. They all attack for lightning energy. That has the Pickle Blaster attack. And you can only use this attack if Dedenne used Dede Short during your last turn. And this attack spreads 60 everywhere on your opponent's side. The deck's goal is basically for you to use Peckle Blast twice a game. And this basically confirms you a game. It basically confirms you a game. Like if you spread 120 everywhere, there's not that much deck that recovers from that. Zigzagoon is really good for you to knock out certain Pokemon, like Manaphy, and you can boss Canceling Cologne a Manaphy. It doesn't do anything. You do a Galarian Zigzagoon, stopping a Headbutt Tantrum on it. and then you use Peckle Blaster and it dies and you still spread the 60 damage. And that's why I really like Lost City. Because Lost City is super important because you can't kill the Manaphy, knock out the Manaphy, and it cannot go back. So your Peckle Blaster is basically guaranteed if you keep up the combo. It's not in this thing, but Rescue Carrier is super important if you want to reuse the Pokemon for your combo. And I really like Gloria because it's really good at the start. You get like your whole line for the combo. And I like to play Chinchino in my Pika combo deck. So Chinchino can just discard the Gloria and then mid the late game. Pikachu is an interesting card. It does 200 damage if you use Dead is Short during your last turn. Peckle Blaster, like 96% of the time is better. But Pika Strike can just destroy a pesky tanking Pokemon like Accelgor in one turn. And that's pretty much it for the Pika combo deck. You just want to spread everything. Its biggest weakness, I'd say, is not to get its combo at the start and you just lose fumes and your opponent plays faster than you and you don't have anything, especially if they play 2 Manaphy. If they play 2 Manaphy, honestly, I'd just recommend to boss kill with Dead is Short plus Lost City, and then the second one you boss cancel and Cologne Zigzagoon. And then you have no Manaphy to be worried about. Next, I'd say, is probably the best deck in the format. Well, I don't know if it's the best, but it's really, really good. It's Mismagius Spread. Mismagius has 2 good techs on it. Its Eerie Voice attack puts 2 damage counters, not damage. 2 damage counters on each of your opponent's Pokemon. And its ability Spiteful Magic is, if it has full HP and is knocked out by damage from attacks, you put 8 damage counters on the attacking Pokemon. So, spreading your goal is kind of similar to the Pika combo deck, but instead of doing like a big 60 damage, you do small bits of 2 damage, and eventually you'll just get a kill. Especially with your Spiteful Magic ability, if they want to kill you, 8 damage counters is basically a kill, especially since on any Pokemon, especially since you put 2 damage everywhere. If they're already at 2 damage, unless they attack with a Pokemon that just came on the board, they're probably gonna get knocked out back with the Spiteful Magic ability. Decks that plays like Full Face Guard or Recoil like Accelgor can't even like prevent the 2 damage counters with the Spiteful Magic with the tanking cards. They can prevent it with Fusion Strike Energy, but they still need to find it. And you can go even further with like the damage counters gimmick with Old Cemetery and Orb Psychic Energy. You're already playing Psychic Energies, right? So why not just play Orb Psychic and then you do 2 damage back, and like if they have more HP with Big Charm, then they're in even more danger. And they can put 2 damage counters with Old Cemetery on their Pokemon, so your spread can be even stronger. Zigzagoon, of course, is a really big, important card since you're spreading damage anyway. And Kirlia and Meowstic were the 2 big support Pokemon I had in mind with this deck. Kirlia is good if you want to get like such a big end later, or just don't want to lose to Marty in general. But Meowstic is really good because you can then search your deck for Rhyhorns. And I think Ryan is especially good in this deck for Mimikyu, which is a really great secondary attacker. Its worst gift attack does 10 damage for each damage counters on all of your opponent's Pokemon. So if you use only one Eerie Voiced attack, Mimikyu is basically doing, and you did it on 6 Pokemon, Mimikyu is basically doing 120 damage. Yeah, it's knocking out the Pokemon, pretty sure. And so yeah, so it's basically like you spread with Mismagius, you can take one kill with Mimikyu, and you just put damage counters, and eventually with the Spiteful Magic and the Eerie Voice, they're probably gonna lose all their Pokemon. It's really interesting with Lost City again, yeah. And talking about Lost City, here's Lost Box. So, Lost Box is not the same as we see it in the standard format, or we've seen it in past formats. There's no Cramorant, there's no Sableye, there's no Raikou, there's no big Pokemon that can profit from Lost Box. But there's Porygon 2. So Comfy and Colress basically fills your last zone of cards, and the Porygon 2 garbage attack does 20 damage for each Pokemon tool in your last zone. So there's no Rotom V to fill it, but yours and your opponents, by the way. So there's no Rotom V to fill it, but you can use Lost Vacuum, and you can just put the tools in the last zone with Cold Rest and Comfy. And once you're at 5 tools, you're basically knocking out every Pokemon. And Porygon 2 has 90 HP, so you can profit from Full Face Guard, Big Charm, etc. You can also go with the Mirage Gate route, and I think it's a pretty interesting route where you can charge Diancie and Magearna, which are pretty strong enough Pokemon by themselves. And Diancie, like Diancie and Magearna, they're both doing like 1 hit KOs attack most of the time. But Diancie also has the Sparkle Veil attack, Sparkle Veil ability, which if it's active, all your Pokemon takes 30 less damage, including itself, right? So it's really good against Snipe. It's really good, like if it's active, it basically cheats and adds 120 HP. It's not as a drastic change like the Wishy-Washy we saw earlier, but the Sparkle Veil is pretty interesting, and you can just charge it with Mirage Gate in 1 turn, or like, now I'm just talking about Diancie, not the Lost Box deck, but you can probably charge it in 2 turns if you're not playing against a 1 KO deck. You play a Twin, you play a Psychic Energy, and you're already done with the Sensitive Ray attack. Jirachi is also interesting if you're playing Porygon 2 anyway, because you can just attack with Twin. And yeah, that's pretty much it for the Lost Box. It's quite fast. It can do big damage, but it needs kind of a combo going on to start itself up. Now let's look at other strategies you can play in the Level Ball Cup. There's this Ambipom deck that actually won an IRL event we did in Montreal. So the Ambipom ability's Private Dexterity makes it basically invincible half the time you're attacking it because of a flip a coin. And Full Tilt Swing does 60 damage for each heads you flip, so I'll just repeat. You flip a coin for each energy on this Pokemon, and you do 60 damage for each heads. So you can play the Glimwood Tangle Stadium, and since you're playing the Glimwood Tangle Stadium, you can play Weird Jirachi, and you can just play Twin and Double Turbo to have 2 coin flips already. And Boost Shake, I think, is an interesting card because it basically turn 1 can transform your Ambipom into Ambipom and makes it immediately invincible half the time. Mousehold is kind of interesting. It does 2 for 70 for each Mousehold you have in play. So if you have 2 Mousehold, you're basically going to killing the whole format. Now, Mousehold is quite weak, and you don't need 4. You don't need to do 280 damage, but I think having a 2 Mousehold decks, like you need to have a lot. You need to recycle the Mouseholds to always have 2 in play. But you can like charge other Pokemon, or you can just I don't know. I feel like a 2 Mousehold deck has kind of a potential in this format for sure. Now Durant, like we can look at a less aggressive deck and a more passive / disruptive deck. Durant mills the opponent's 1 card from their deck for each Durant you have in play. So if you have 4 Durant in play, you're running 4, and you can play the Curse Shovel and the Galar Mine to just make your opponent lose their mind completely. And Dunsparce is a pretty interesting, I don't know if we say secondary attacker, you're not really attacking, but a secondary disruptor. Its final deck ability makes it mill the top 2 cards of your opponent's deck if it's getting knocked out, so it's a great combo with Curse Shovel as well, and a good in-between cards if you're setting up your board with for Durant. Now let's look at what's coming in Paldea Evolve, and I think there's a lot of interesting cards for the format. Now Artisan will probably the new big staple supporters. It's basically a nest ball every turn at the cost of giving a nest ball every turn to your opponent. I think the War of Artisan will be interesting for the format, because like you will only play the stadium if you really need it, and once your opponent plays it, you can basically abuse it without playing it yourself, or you can even remove it after using it, which is super interesting. Lesson Steel will be an interesting card if you need it for a specific mat like Vitality Man, only for stage 1, but it's a Vitality Band that doesn't take your tool spot, but takes a stadium spot and can remove the stadium for your opponent. So it's a great card to keep in mind. Super Rod basically answered the problem of Jumpluff, which is how can I recycle a whole stage 2 line with one card that's not Miriam? And it's also just sometimes better than Ordinary Rod. Especially, it's better than Ordinary Rod if you only play Special Energy, right? Like most Lost Box without Mirage Gate I've seen, or MB Bomb and stuff like that. Since you don't need Chill Basic Energy, so 3 Pokemon is always better than 2. And speaking about Jumpluff, there's a new Jumpluff in town. I think there's gonna be 2 Jumpluff deck. There's gonna be the Double Strike one, and there's gonna be this one, which has the MB Bomb ability. So it's invincible half the time with a coin flip, and its attack is again 1 for 60, but instead of using it twice a turn, it snipes 30 to the bench. So again, it kind of loses to Manaphy, but like you can play Defiance Band, you can play Leon, you can play Gloves, and like when I kill a Pokemon and then set up set up damage on our bench Pokemon while being invincible half the time. Talking about invincible half the time, there's this dog trio which has the Dig attack. I think it's gonna be Dig. I don't read Japanese, but I'm pretty sure it's gonna be Dig. It's 1 for 50 damage, so you're basically Twitcoing the meta. And the text says, flip a coin if this Pokemon doesn't ignore all effects of attacks, including damage, during your opponent's next turn. I think fighting has interesting tools in this format. You can play Rock Chestplate and other fighting supporting cards. I don't have them all. You can play Grant, I guess. But I think like just Rock Chestplate makes this card super interesting. Or this Oricorio, I think is really good in Accelgor. You can play a mix of both Oricorios, or like it's just good in tanking decks in general, decks that wants to be invincible all the time, like MB Bomb, Jumpluff, or Dug Trio. You heal 20 damage from your evolution Pokemon, so yeah, just really good in tanking decks in general. Jet Energy, good in Lost Box, maybe good in Accelgor. It's not a grass energy, but can provide the switching aspect you're probably missing sometime. And Super Energy Retrieval is interesting for like Swim Freely / Frosmoth decks that just want to pile a lot of energy on the Pokemon. Sometimes this will be a game-winning card. Now there's 2 cards you probably like wondered why I didn't talk about them, Iono and Reversal Energy. The reason I didn't talk about them is that there's so much powerful card that I don't know what to do with them. I'll think about it. We'll actually let them be free for to start things up. But there will be a possible restricted list in bonus of the ban list where you can only play one of these cards. And let me explain why. The Iono will be basically a second Marnie, and I don't want the format support line to just be Marnie and Iono, and I kind of want to remove one or another. And I'm thinking removing / restricting Iono is the better option. One, because it's probably gonna be more expensive than Marnie, but that's not the reason why I chose this decision. It's just a nice plus. The second reason why is that it kind of overrides Roxanne in the format. And I'm not saying Roxanne is a good card. I think Roxanne has potential in the format. But if you can only play one Iono, you're probably going to be wondering if you're playing Iono or Roxanne as your specific one. Now, Roxanne is not restricted, but you don't really want to play more than one most of the time. So having one Iono makes it kind of compete with Roxanne instead of just being a better card most of the time. Reversal Energy is kind of the card I'm seeing like as a 2/3 of in a deck that doesn't want to play it, to focus on it anyway. But like 3 Rainbow out of nowhere on an evolution is so strong. Like Accelgor can attack without going to from the bench to the active, or like there's a ton of other cards. But restricting it to one can make it still such a good card or a nice deck, but not as broken as like you can have a random stage 1 that has a 3 energy. I don't know. Like I feel like Reversal Energy is kind of a super dangerous card in the format like Level Bulk Up. But these cards will not be banned on release. They'll be tested, and we'll see if they're worth restricting or banning, or we'll just see what the format goes with these 2 cards. And that's basically it for the format. So I'm planning to do online tournament on Limitless for this Level Bulk Up format. There's probably also gonna be just IRL events in the Montreal area in Canada. I talked to my some of my organize our body, and they're kind of interested in probably doing things with this format. So yeah, I think this one has potential. I think it can be a ton of fun. But I really posted a video to make it more public, for people to learn how to play this format, and to make it more popular. Yeah. So tell me what you think about it. Tell me if you're excited to play the deck about it. If you'd be down to play events for the World Cup format. I'm probably gonna do like maybe video for fun on TCG Live for this format, because it's really playable on TCG Live. All the cards necessary are on it, and it's most of them commons and cheap rares that are super easy to craft on live. But yeah, hope you have a great night, a great day, and see you next time in another video. Cheers.